This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Amy, you know what today is, don't you?
World's largest block party?
Nah, well, okay, but National Bring Your Dog to Work Day.
Oh, today is?
Yeah.
Oh, I was so close to bringing Punky. Honestly, I did not know that. If I had known.
This is an anti-canine environment, so
I know. We should be more like Silicon Valley corporations where everybody can bring your dog or your cat or a goldfish or a lizard if you'd like.
Yeah, and where we get lots of stock options.
Exactly.
We should be like Silicon Valley in that way, too. Enjoy those folks out there who
can bring their dogs to work.
Work in friendly environments.
Because you're a very nice person.
Yes.
You're a lot nicer when your dog's around.
Am I?
No, you're a different person, and it helps my blood pressure stay low and normal. Yeah. If you bring your dog, Hayek, to work.
I'm nicer because, I like my dog.
Your dog likes you. I love your dog. I miss your dog every day.
Me too.
It's very hard to come to work.
Just wanted to make that if you're, leaving, if you're walking out the door, if you're in a friendly work environment that honors this national holiday of sorts, you may want to grab the pooch. All right, so we got a lot to cover here.
Lots going on in the world.
But by the way, we're just noticing breaking news on CNN.
Oh, I know. I said, what is it? What is it?
Putin-directed election hacks.
According to the Washington Post, and it's still breaking.
So that has been breaking for 8 months. Is it technically breaking news if it's the same news every day for 8 months? Is that really breaking news? Why don't we put that question to our friend Tim Carney, senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com. Tim, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about Russia. Interesting piece from two members of the Freedom Caucus. 3 members, actually, that was posted on FoxNews.com. It's time to investigate the investigators. We need a special counsel for the special counsel, argue Representatives Jordan, Meadows, and Heiss, saying, while we appreciate Mr. Mueller's service to our country, his past testimony as FBI director before House Judiciary did not inspire confidence about his impartiality. And they talk about the Inspector General's report over at IRS. And when then FBI Director Mueller was asked about it, he had no idea who was in charge. He had no idea if alleged victims had been interviewed. He just seemed kind of indifferent and asleep at the switch about it. So it's one thing for Trump to be making insinuations about Mueller's relationship with Comey. It's another thing to go back to Mueller's actual performance as FBI director and raise questions about his impartiality. And Meadows and Jordan and Heiss go on to suggest, given Comey's testimony, roping Comey back in here, about Loretta Lynch and what he did at her direction, shouldn't there be a special counsel that focuses on the Hillary email matter?
I do think that what went on with Loretta Lynch it was of the same sort of thing. You referred to the IRS, same sort of thing that went on at the IRS, where the political arms of the Obama administration stuck their hands into things that should not have been political. When people say, "Oh, there were no scandals," it's just that we never really got to the bottom of some of these things, where they politicized the real weaponized parts of the administration, including the IRS and the DOJ trying to meddle with what was going on. As far as investigating Hillary, though, and Trump talks about this too, I don't know. I sort of feel over that. Hillary Clinton clearly violated public records laws and did what she could to try to keep things out of the public eye. I thought that was a great argument that she was unfit to be president of the United States. But the only remaining questions to me are there public records that we still haven't gotten because she's hidden them? And the fact that she hid them sort of got dragged into public. It had its political cost. Should that be an investigative priority? When Donald Trump talks that way, I always feel like he hasn't come to terms with the fact that he beat her. She's done. We don't have to deal with Hillary again. and that having a greater focus on the guy who's actually in the White House is actually appropriate.
Well, I can see that point, but just one thought here on the justice system and the American people's confidence in the rule of law in this country these days. So on the one hand, per what you just said, somebody that we know broke federal laws just gets a walk. On the other hand, somebody that hasn't even been accused of breaking any specific federal law is the subject of, 15 lawyers in search of a crime, as Mark Stein points it. So it's kind of upside down, isn't it?
It is. It is. On the other hand, I firmly believe that the people in power need to be held to a higher standard. And thanks be to God, Hillary Clinton is not in power at the moment. That's the way that I would look at it. I thought it was a crime that I thought it was a shame that Comey didn't go after her. When people focused on was she careless with classified information, I thought that was a distraction from the fact that she set up this private server so that she could subvert the public records laws. The fact that what she did as a public servant was supposed to be available. Not everything's available to the public. Some of it would be kept private, secret, whatever. But that shouldn't be up to her and her personal lawyers to determine that there are powers that be in the U.S. government. I thought that was a shame. And also, I think you made a good distinction. Mueller's record as FBI director is very relevant. And I've been asking around with some FBI people, and what they say, their concern about Mueller is that he's not always open to differing opinions. He surrounds himself with people who think similarly and people who tend to try to reaffirm his conclusions, and that this is not the ideal mindset for an investigator. You want somebody who's going to say, "Hey, tell me if you think I'm wrong. Tell me if you think I'm missing something. Tell me if you think I'm jumping to conclusions." I don't know how that'll play out in the Trump investigation, but that's what I'm keeping my eye on.
Well, today's Friday. Today was the day, the deadline to turn over any tapes and the memos related to President Trump and Comey. And President Trump tweeted yesterday, with all of the recently reported electronic surveillance, intercepts, unmasking, and illegal leaking of information, I have no idea whether there are tapes, quote unquote, or recordings of my conversations with James Comey, but I did not make and do not have any such recordings. Do you think that he alluded to the fact, because I do, during those press conferences, that he had tapes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he did. Was he trying to sort of scare Comey? Did he just think that they might exist and that by mentioning them, they might come out? I don't know. I mean, when Trump talks about this stuff, I think he might not know much more about what surveillance goes on than you or I do. Does he think everything's being taped? Does he know things we don't? I am thoroughly confused when Trump talks about this, and I don't think he does himself any good by sort of, people say, oh, well, he's trolling the press, he's, leading on these people. I don't think that's a responsible way for the president to behave. So there's something I'm missing. If Trump has a good reason for talking about tapes, whether himself being wiretapped or whether himself having tapes of him and Comey talking, I don't see what good he's accomplishing when he talks that way.
Well, Molly Hemingway over at the Federalist made the argument that by doing what he did, insinuating there may be tapes, he outed Jim Comey to disclose the one thing that hasn't leaked in the last year, and that was the 3 times Jim Comey told Trump he wasn't a target of the investigation, and so he essentially outed Comey with respect to that.
Well, that's true, and that was the infuriating thing in retrospect, that every single aspect leaked out except for the one that Comey would tell Trump in private, but the one thing that wouldn't leak out was that Comey was confirming that Trump wasn't under investigation. And so I don't like to think of our intelligence apparatus and our FBI as having, partisan or personal gripes. But when you consider that detail, that everything else leaked out except for the one that, establishes Trump wasn't under investigation, it's hard not to come to that conclusion. And this is a really dangerous situation to be in. If our president and our intelligence communities are at war, that's a dysfunctional government right there.
Speaking of dangerous situations politically, Nancy Pelosi Now, the good news is apparently she actually read this health care bill because she commented on it
It's
yesterday.
only 142 pages.
Yeah.
So she could read it.
Well, sure. And she's, a policy wonk, and she's a Evelyn Woods graduate. And so she, of course, assimilates this information quickly. She's very, very bright. She just said so yesterday. But here's the thing. There's a couple of Democrats, at least, that are kind of speaking openly about her as a problem for Democrats trying to take back the House in November of 2018, even though they concede, she's been the subject of unfair tax. You have Ohio Dem Tim Ryan, Texas Dem Philemon Vela, who both have essentially said she is an anchor around our necks in swing districts, and we can't take back the House with her. Is there any real chance of a coup d'etat in the House Democrats between now and 18?
I don't think so. I think she went out yesterday and just sort of held the line, and that she has enough loyal soldiers who will go with her. The fact is, while the makeup of the Democratic Party has changed under Nancy Pelosi, there hasn't been that many new people brought in to the House Democratic Caucus. In other words, they're losing and they're not adding members. So they have a relatively senior caucus. Republicans, huge portions were not around in 2006, but in 2006, Nancy Pelosi helped bring in the House majority. In 2010, against very long odds, she passed Obamacare. She was able to pass the global warming bill, Waxman-Markey, through the House. She passed Dodd-Frank through the House. She passed stimulus. And these were not easy. Well, the Obamacare and Dodd-Frank were not easy things to pass. And she made sure that the people who lost landed on their feet. They all got plush lobbying jobs, the people who lost because of Obamacare. There's a lot of loyalty to her because people see her as effective, as willing to stand up for what she believes in. And there's too many of those people in the House and too few new members. So the irony is that the political price that Democrats have paid under Pelosi helps make her safer because there's not enough sort of young blood in there to pull off a coup. I think it would take her stepping aside or them something unimaginable, like them actually losing seats in 2018 for her to actually lose her spot.
I also think that surprised raccoon expression on her face scares people. So I think that keeps them in line, too. He is Tim Carney, senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com. Tim, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more